I really just looked at the opportunity and realized there wasn't somebody like a Yellow Dog in the space. And so my name is Jay Livingood. I'm the CEO and founder of Yellow Dog Software. We're a company based out of Norfolk. We are a classic software company where we literally have built a software system. That software system does inventory workflows. It does it in 3 workflows, which is really retail, food and beverage, and then concessions. So it's really gift shops, restaurants, stadiums, if you want to keep it fairly simple. And then the markets where we're typically brought in are sports and entertainment, live music. We'll do amusement parks. We'll do lodging hospitality, which is really resorts, hotels, casinos. Obviously, lots of restaurants or anywhere there's food service. We have an institutional group, which is really our hospitals, our corporate campuses. So kind of, the non-recreation type places, but there's still inventory needs. And then we do some traditional retail. And then we do a lot of combination where there's food and beverage and retail. We use the term rest-tail. So there are businesses that offer both. And, we are as an inventory system, we work with point of sale systems to get their sales data. So we work closely with roughly 130 partners, where our job isn't really to sell inventory, it's to provide inventory in opportunities where it helps our partners succeed. So we're a kind of a partner enablement system and doing it through the medium of inventory. Where Yellow Dog came into being was that I was selling a high-end golf, tee time reservation, spa, and activity system into resorts, hotels, and casinos. So it's a very specific thing. And they were looking at this reservation software and they said, that looks great. But they said to move forward with the reservation software, we're also going to have to get a retail inventory system. I really just looked at the opportunity and realized there wasn't somebody like a Yellow Dog in the space. And somebody like Yellow Dog was somebody that had a full-featured product, but that it was affordable for the average business to take advantage of. There were a lot of bigger systems, heavier systems, more involved systems. And I had previously worked 10 years at a golf software company and really got to understand retail inventory and then food and beverage inventory through that as well. And I just saw the opportunity. Honestly, I spent about 16 seconds on strategic planning, which meant I didn't do anything. I just said, I think this will work, let's just do it. And really just launched from there. There was no investment, it was all self-funded. I just saw an opportunity and I said I would like to do that. And here we are now, 19 years later, from I think this will work, to where we are today. I knew what I had helped create in a golf software business, and I knew I could bring that same kind of workflows. I'm not a coder, I'm not a programmer, never have been. But what I am gifted at is hearing someone describe a business issue and being able to quickly translate that into, oh, the software should do this. You don't start a company to make money, you start a company to help your human brothers with what they do, and you need to do it in a way that it makes money, right? You can't do it without that. So that's always been the premise of, I think I'm the best guy for it. I think I can assemble the right team for it. I think we can help people. And that's what we've done. We've continued to build and grow, and we really have not deviated from, that's how we started, and that's still where we are, which is helping people through the medium of inventory management. That sounds terribly nerdy, but that's what we do.
My name and role, Yellow Dog. So I'm Brian Sudol, I'm Director of Sales here with Yellow Dog. When I started 2013, there was 6, 7 maybe at the time, if I remember correctly. Small little office over in Ghent. Jay was the only one handling sales. I was brought on to kind of start that real outbound sales path, help build the organization up. We've been growing ever since then. So when I look at the capabilities of what we did, 12 years ago to what we do today, it's almost complete night and day difference just on the software side. The overall growth of the company, just establishing, new roles and new departments. As our needs have grown and our software has evolved, it's opened up the doors for new leadership roles, growth within the company for other folks, and really just the ability to continually grow, add more clients, add more staff, improve the product, and just really build a very, very solid product, helping thousands of clients, manage inventory easier.
It's interesting, the brands we work for, and as a result, the people that work there are passionate. So the people we work for are engaged in their jobs, and that's also super helpful. Early on, I worked in the golf business, and I worked for a guy who was operating a driving range. And he and I went back and forth, and this is when I was a senior in high school and then through college. He said, let's go build all these driving ranges. And this is before Topgolf and Drive Shack and all the concepts we know today. And I was like, this is great, 100%. And I went to James Madison. I was getting my undergrad in business and really applied everything against this concept of how do we do that. And at the end of it, coming into my senior year, he said, I'm not going to do that. So I was a little bit frustrated, but I still continued to kind of pursue this. And long story short, someone at one point said, when I was trying to get a job out of school, he said, what did you do? What did you want to do? And I said, well, I wanted to build and operate these driving ranges. And he said, yeah, let's go do it. Ended up, I pulled all the information I had from doing case studies while I was at college, putting all the information together. And I looked at this body of information that I had, and I realized I had more information than anyone else had. And I just needed to put it together in a book. And so I did that. I literally sat down, wrote a table of contents. Actually, this is the book. I ended up created a table of contents, which is 33 chapters and 30 appendices. And I said, okay, well, let's just start writing. And I knew probably about 10 of the chapters. The other 22 I had no idea about. So I just started calling up experts and said, okay, I don't know anything about this. Can I come in and sit down with you for a couple hours? Can you tell me your expertise on how to do lighting of a range, or how would you approach the permitting process, or what would you do for legal? I just asked people their opinion, and they gave it to me, and that created the content. So in a long story short, I wrote a book and went to Kinko's and produced it and sold it for $250, and it cost me $25 to get it copied. So that was company number one. Again, no strategic thought, just said, this will work, let's just go do it. And I guess the secret to both, whether it's this book or Yellow Dog, was just, I think it'll work. And then it was just lots of hard work, just tons and tons of just put your head down and build this thing, whatever it is.
Jay's vision for the company, goals, core values, all kind of trickle down from the top to each department, down to each employee here. We're valuing our customers first. We're in a hospitality industry, which is a service-first industry. They see that we are a vendor that is for the clients. I can't tell you how many times we hear from our client base that you're the only vendor that listens to us. You're the only vendor that responds to us. The fact that we're listening to all their feedback and building that into future software versions, is something that they don't see with a lot of other companies out there.
My name is TJ Young. I'm the general manager and director of golf here at Bayville Golf Club in Virginia Beach. Bayville Golf Club is a full-service golf club that also has a restaurant to service the members and their guests, including some private parties of all sizes up to maybe 150 people or so. Yeah, the software used at country clubs, the point of sale and the way it ties into the member accounts and everything, food and beverage components sometimes are lacking and are kind of take a back burner when you're making decisions on the POS system purchase. So that has led to struggles not only at Bayville, but other clubs that I've been involved with. Excel spreadsheets tended to be the default, and when you use an Excel spreadsheet, you really can run into some errors when formulas aren't properly detailed out, and also it just takes such a long time from a manual perspective. Yellow Dog software has completely changed the production of inventorying, invoices being received and how they're entered. How accurate they're entered is extremely important. Very, very few errors that you have to go back at the end of the month to worry about and take time to fix. Whereas when it was Excel spreadsheet, that seemed like a 5-day project, and before you know it, you're counting inventory again.
So there's always a question, and that's the question of how do you start a company, and do you do it by yourself? Do you truly bootstrap it, or do you go ahead and get investors? The landscape's changed dramatically. So in my world in software, I think it'd be very difficult to do what I did again. In today's world, the mindset and the approach has changed. Everything is as SaaS, as a subscription. So it was a different time. We were fortunate to be able to sell licenses. And today we're roughly 75% now, as everything is a subscription. So we've moved as the market has changed, where the market wants to pay for things monthly. They want it to be an operating expense, not a capital expense. So if I was starting Yellow Dog today, I would have to do it differently. I would. Although sitting here 19 years with 100% ownership, with no debt and no investors, it does give me a great amount of peace of mind, and that I can still make decisions immediately. I can decide how things will work. And that's great. But unfortunately, the economics have changed where, people can't do what I did. I applaud you if you did, or if you can. I would tell you to try to do that, but the economics may not work.
We're at a point now where, we cover 95% of the needs we come across. So it's really changed, ability to, just bring on new salespeople that have a tool they can sell, meets the needs of clients, helps them improve their workflows. Where early days, it was hard. We had to kind of learn how to adapt the system to the environments, constantly enhance or add new features, applications, lots of testing going on, lots of documentation, kind of explaining what I'll say food and beverage workflows to developers that have never worked in the environment. So a lot of back and forth, just kind of getting there, and a lot of kind of trial error, but eventually getting solid, stable product that met the needs of those clients. And we still hear it today from prospects on how great it is to talk to folks that aren't just salespeople, but actually understand the industry, are willing to consult, work with them, versus just sell a product. And that's mostly what's out there today, is just salespeople.
Yeah, I think Yellow Dog software is such a wide spread option where you go from a small golf club or country club like ours with maybe $750,000 in revenue annually to professional sports coliseums that do millions of dollars in revenue, and to have this software be versatile enough to work with all different types of facilities and really nail it when it comes to customer service. One of the things that stood out to me when we brought Yellow Dog on was their team, and I mean 4 or 5 people were here for weeks upon weeks, getting to know our facility, getting to know our systems, and working closely with our restaurant management team to figure out how to take what we were doing and put it into this new system. And the amount of time and effort that they put in to make sure we had a product that was working the way it was supposed to, and it was accurate and efficient, was really impressive. The team led by Jay Livingood is to be commended on making sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed, and that pays off immediately, because you can have great software, but if it's not accurate and your team doesn't know how to use it, then you're paying for something that you're really not benefiting by. They wanted to make sure that we understood how to use it from A to Z, and that it was accurate, and that we didn't have any questions about how to use it, and therefore the value of this software is immense for all facilities.
In the early days, I mean, we were excited just to get first deal or second deal. And at that juncture, everything you're doing is brand new for the first time. And it's interesting, you know, I have 75 employees now, and people go, well, what should I do next? Or this wasn't unclear. And I was like, well, back then, everything was unclear. I mean, literally, like, what do you do next? There wasn't a good script to follow. I mean, I had a little bit of a background, but still, everything was brand new. So when you look back, you're like, gosh, we didn't have commercial insurance for 3 years. Ooh, okay, we could have gotten wiped out. You know, for the longest time, I had a single developer. I had one guy writing all the code. And one day he goes, I'm out. And I was like, well, I don't write code. And so all of a sudden that was just like, my goodness. And, you know, super emergency, and, you know, you really have to figure out everything very quickly. You know, and so you get through each of these things. And as a software company, you know, we would hit performance issues or architecture issues where, you know, we started out, we were like, okay, this is where we're going. And next thing you know, we're not at this stratosphere, like we're getting pulled into now, you know, hey, there was one gift shop, now you're doing an entire resort. Now you're doing a group of resorts. Or then all of a sudden, hey, you've done retail workflows, and now the systems, you know, the client base is saying, do food and beverage. Okay, well, how hard can that be? Well, apparently it's really hard, but you don't know it till you get into it. And then more recently was, you know, in 2000, a concessionaire approached us and said, we need a good concession, which is a slightly different workflow, inventory system to open up SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. So 2-team Rams and Chargers, brand new, arguably, you know, the most unbelievable stadium that's ever been built. And they said, okay, that's going to be you, and you got 6 months.
At the time, the stadium picked the point of sale, and they partnered with Square to handle all of their point of sale needs, retail, food and beverage. So when they decided to use Square for the point of sale, there wasn't a system they could integrate to Square that would handle that concession management. Now, knowing what we did in retail with them, they came to us, obviously wanting to work on the retail. They knew we integrated with Square. They said, can you guys add in these type of very unique workflows to the concession space? And then we did it the right way. We went and we visited numerous clients that are doing this today. But we went in, we looked at multiple systems today. We understood what was good, what was bad, what are the necessary workflows, where would they like to see improvements if they could wave a magic wand. And we did that with a number of different clients, where eventually we took all that feedback, came back, built an application that really just managed the concession needs correctly, you know, fixed all the little nuances in the other systems that people didn't like from workflows or never worked, and then also gave them new efficiencies that they weren't even thinking about.
Where we started out, we're just doing this, retail inventory. Then the client base said, you do that so well, we love what you do there, please do food and beverage. It was almost a pleading, will you please go do this? It took a long time to get that right. Food and beverage was harder than we expected. We kind of did really good at retail, and then we pivoted into food and beverage, and we realized, shoot. And so we had to completely pivot on that, because now we have these workflows that cross-pollinate, and we have clients. We had, you know, a major theme park that was going to go in. We're in the middle of the installation. They're going to operate the way they thought they were going to operate, which was concessions based. The moment we got in there, we said, no, stop. You need to switch to our food and beverage, our culinary workflow. And they were like, oh, you're right. So I think about that. If we were a single entity, we would have been stuck. The client would have been stuck. There would have been a contract issue. There could have been legal issues. But instead, we made a pivot in 2 hours, changed the course, and everything worked. So that's some of the success stories of, you go in thinking it's one thing, find out it's totally different, and we're able to handle that, and that's really satisfying.
Yellow Dog has really taken our inventory process specifically from at least 8 or 9 hours a month to less than 3 hours. And so that's just one point of emphasis that the Yellow Dog has helped with. The other that I mentioned earlier is the way invoices are brought in through fintech, and the way credit card purchases are processed with data entry on the Yellow Dog part to really make sure that our receiving of goods is accurately put into the system, which makes it so much simpler and more efficient at the end of the month when you're doing inventory, and not having to go in and make sure all the prices are accurate and edit those and finding any variances in the Yellow Dog software is extremely easy and takes very little time to get the inventory accurate. And again, it's miles ahead of what the previous methods that we used.
So when this was started, I was trying to get ideas on, hey, what should we call this thing? And most of the ideas were really, really bad. I had a young family at the time, probably a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and had a really good dog, and her name was Sola. And had always thought, like, this is the best dog you could possibly get. Like, she would play when you wanted her to play, but she would be obedient when you needed her to obedient, and she was just a great pet. And literally sitting on GoDaddy's website, entering in all these terrible names for a software company, and she came up, and I went, put her head on my lap, and I went, Yellow Dog Software. And it was available, and then I thought, we just need to be the type of software company that is as good to our customers as this dog has been to me and my family. But Yellow Dog Software really does kind of mean what it is, which is, we're there to serve our master, which is our clients, which is our partners, be obedient, work hard, have fun, but, be that type of, good dog. It's actually one of the things, we have a Good Dog Award, that when people do great things, we acknowledge them with a Good Dog Award and give them $100. So we just have a lot of fun with it. So we used to be 3 people. Well, now we're 75. And, I got to tell you, the first 13, 15, that's one thing. You get to 25, it changes a little bit. But we were in that 30 range and then went to 55. And that's where it really changed. The people we're hiring today are different from the people we hired 19 years ago. They're different ages, they're different learning styles, they're different expectations. And so we've had to learn and adapt to meet today's new worker, because what we took for granted no longer applies. The thing I'm most proud of, if we're sitting here at 75 people, is seeing the self-generating changes that are occurring that I'm not involved with. That's the cool part. It'd be like you grew a plant, and then over here in the corner, that plant has, generated its own new roots and now has its own new thing. And then you're watching this thing grow up around you, and to do it in symphony and concert with everything else. I mean, that's the greatest thing ever, where it's like, okay, it isn't the Jay show, it's the Yellow Dog, vibe, the entity, whatever it is, and people are picking up what you've been laying down, if you will.
I think Yellow Dog's positions itself right now to not only continuously grow in the markets that we're in today, but also open the door to other market verticals, whether it's in the hospitality space or even outside of hospitality. We've continued to kind of look ahead to the future, look at industry trends of where do we see things going in the future? Where do we see different needs? Coming up, biggest thing we've seen over the years is reduction in labor and staffing at sites, more automation, more AI tools, where we are constantly looking at that type of software enhancement and involvement with other systems to make everything we do around inventory management just easier as teams get smaller, less sophisticated. We want to make sure we're providing tools that are going to grow with them in the future. Most people throughout their careers work for a company, but never get to be part of the direction of what that company actually does. So being in a role And really, not just myself, but everyone here at Yellow Dog has that ability to help impact where our, direction of the company, direction of the software goes. We value all the feedback, but just being able to be part of that, help find these new markets, find these new workflows that will enable us to continually grow the company outside of what we do today it's exciting. You don't get those opportunities with every career path that you choose at the end of the day.
Honestly, the thing I'm thinking about is, will my kids' kids look at pictures of me and my kids at a Maple Leafs game? And will they talk about the story about that was a company, Yellow Dog, and they helped do the inventory at these amazing places. I want to do the very best that we can as a business, but I do know that, hey, we can do the very best we can, but it is just business at the end of the day, and it may not last forever, but how we did it and who we did it for, those memories will last. If I would give advice to somebody looking to start a business here in the 757, my advice would be follow your own instincts and forget what anybody else tells you or what the avatar looks like. This is your thing and it's your success. It is your baby and it will change, but go ahead and make it your own. Yeah, there are models to follow. You could go to other markets or other, companies and say that's how they did it, and that totally makes sense. And maybe you emulate that. But when it gets right down to it, this is you doing your thing the way you want to do it. And go ahead and trust your instincts. My God, please don't doubt yourself. It's okay. Go for it. You're going to do what 99% of people won't ever do. So chin up, go for it, be smart, be paranoid. That's probably the most important thing I can tell you. Paranoia will make you read, listen, talk, study. Be paranoid, but don't be scared. There's a difference. So paranoia can drive you, make you good decisions. Don't run scared. That'd be my advice.